Check, check, check for Christina. Check, check for Christina, because she's a worry little wart. Check, 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 check. My screen isn't black. Check, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Check, 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 check. Good.
Test, 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 1, 2, 3, test, test. Test, 1, 2, 3. B, C, D. Test. Huh? Test, test, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So if Sesame Street, it stops, I'm lost. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. E, F, G, H, I, J, K. Test, 1, 2, test, 1, 2. It is. That's why I asked you to help. Test, test, test. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Test, test, test. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V. Good? A, B, C, good. Thanks, Charlie.
I may do that. Is that good for you? Okay. Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Ben Glassman. I am the United States Attorney for the Southern District of Ohio. I am joined this afternoon by my first assistant U.S. Attorney, V. Paul Patel, as well as Todd Wickerham, the Special Agent in charge of the FBI Cincinnati Division, and Dayton Police Chief Rick Beal. And we are here to announce the arrest of Ethan Colley, 24, of Kettering, who was arrested Friday evening and now stands accused by federal criminal complaint of unlawfully possessing a firearm while being a user of controlled substances and of lying on the Form 4473, the firearms form, in order to acquire a firearm, specifically indicating that he was not a user of controlled substances when in fact he was. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit more about these charges, but before I do, I want to make two things clear at the outset. One of them is that although these charges have arisen out of the investigation into the shooting that took place on August 4th in the Oregon District, Mr. Colley does not stand accused of intentionally participating in the planning of that shooting. We have no evidence of that. There's no allegation of that. So I just want to make that clear from the outset. And then secondly, I want to give the disclaimer that I always give in discussing the federal criminal charges, which is that Mr. Colley, like all criminal defendants, is presumed innocent unless and until he's proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt by the United States with evidence in court. And the allegations of a federal criminal complaint are just that. They are allegations. They are not evidence. So with that disclaimer, I'll tell you a little bit about what the affidavit in support of the criminal complaint against Mr. Colley does say. It says that on August 4th, special agents with the FBI and ATF initially spoke with Mr. Colley on Sunday, August 4th, which was the day of when the shooting had taken place early that morning. And at that time of that initial interview, Mr. Colley indicated that he had purchased body armor and a firearm accessory for Connor Betts, the shooter, who had committed the shooting earlier that day. And during the course of that initial interview, which was at Mr. Colley's home in Kettering, agents smelled marijuana and observed in plain sight what appeared to be a bong and also what appeared to be a micro Draco pistol. Then later that week, on Thursday, August 8th, FBI agents re-interviewed Mr. Colley, this time at his place of work. And Mr. Colley indicated to the agents at that time that he was a concealed carry. He told them during the second interview that he had done quote-unquote hard drugs with Connor Betts, as well as marijuana and acid 4 or 5 times a week from 2014 to 2015. And then when the agents asked Colley how often he used drugs, Colley indicated that he smoked marijuana every day and had been doing so for about 10 years. Agents obtained from a federal firearms licensee the ATF Form 4473 that Colley had completed in order to purchase the micro Draco pistol that agents observed upon initially interviewing him. That form was dated in May 9th, 2019, and on that form, Colley had indicated no in response to the question, are you an unlawful user of or addicted to marijuana or any depressant, stimulant, narcotic drug, or any other controlled substance. At that point, the agents obtained a federal search warrant for Colley's person and his residence. When they executed the search warrant of Colley, the search warrant of his person, he again admitted to being a regular user of illegal drugs, including marijuana and psychedelic mushrooms, which he said he grew in his residence. He admitted that he did remember filling out the Form 4473 and indicating falsely that he was not a user of illegal drugs when in fact he was, because he knew that if he had answered it truthfully, he would not have received the firearm that he was buying. He also acknowledged that he had purchased for Betts body armor, as well as the upper receiver of an AR-15 weapon and the 100-round double drum magazine that was ultimately used by Betts in the August 4th shooting in the Oregon District. Colley indicated that he purchased these items for Betts and stored them at Colley's residence in order to assist Betts in hiding the items from Betts' parents. Colley admitted to recalling approximately 10 weeks earlier, so middle to end of May, sitting with Betts in Colley's apartment and assembling the AR-15 accessory. And then further that a couple weeks after that, when the double drum magazine arrived, Betts coming and taking possession of that drum as well as the body armor. The agents executed the search warrant of Colley's apartment. They recovered the Draco pistol, the Taurus semi-automatic pistol, ammunition, drug paraphernalia, a clear glass pipe, and what is commonly referred to as a bong, as well as what appeared to be mushrooms. Colley was then taken into custody on Friday evening. He made his initial appearance here in federal court Friday evening, and pursuant to a criminal complaint that is being unsealed today. These charges that expose him up to a possible term of imprisonment of up to 15 years in prison, and the case will move forward next with a detention hearing on Wednesday. I want to make a couple quick points about this case, and then I will invite any questions that you may have. The points are, number one, again, to be clear, there is no evidence and no allegation in this criminal complaint that Colley intentionally participated in the planning of Betts's August 4th shooting, so I don't want that to be misconstrued. And that's not what this case is about, but what this case is about is in the course of this ongoing investigation into the August 4th shooting, anyone who is discovered to have any criminal culpability for any act that ultimately is discovered through the investigation or contributed in any way to the events on August 4th is going to be held criminally responsible. And more generally, not only is possessing controlled substances illegal, but possessing controlled substances and possessing a firearm is itself a crime. And that is not something that federal agents who are investigating this or any matter are going to ignore, and that is why Mr. Colley has been charged in federal court Friday afternoon and unsealed here today. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
What led you to Mr. Colley so quickly on Sunday?
So I can't get into the specifics of exactly why that was, although you'll see that if you read the affidavit in support of the criminal complaint, on August 4th, there was the FBI agents and ATF agents spoke with Mr. Colley briefly at that time and then re-interviewed him later in the week. So I think it's clear from reading this affidavit that Mr. Colley and Mr. Betts have known each other for a long time.
Were any of these things that he purchased, would he have been prohibited from purchasing them based on his drug use, like the magazine, the body armor, and the alpha receiver?
The magazine, no, but you cannot possess a firearm if you are an unlawful possessor of user of controlled substances.
Can you walk us through the process of reviewing these forms if simply buying can allow somebody to get them?
Yeah, well, I mean, we have a system of transferring firearms in this country where we have the ATF form 4473 is designed to make sure that anybody who does apply for a firearm to purchase it legally, that you catch all those people who would be disqualified by federal law from possessing the firearm. That form requires people to fill it out truthfully under penalty of federal prosecution. So we do rely on people being honest. If they're not honest and they're caught, they can be federally prosecuted, and that is a crime that is punishable by up to 5 years in federal prison, and that is what Mr. Colley is charged with here.
People don't get caught because a situation like this doesn't happen. How often do you believe this happens?
Oh, I can't speak to that. I can say that this office vigorously prosecutes anyone who has falsified a Form 4473.
When's the last time you prosecuted someone on that count?
We have prosecuted straw purchasers routinely, including as recently as last year.
Nothing in Betts's background would say that he didn't buy that gun. Why didn't he just order the accessory himself? Why is Colley involved?
So according to the affidavit in support of the criminal complaint, the affidavit says that Colley was involved because Betts wanted to hide the purchase of these of this ammunition or of this magazine, body armor, and AR part from his parents.
So this was straw man kind of situation, just by buying firearm equipment and parts. Like you're supposed to still do it yourself.
Yeah, but if there was not an indication, for example, that that Betts would himself have been any more or less disqualified from buying any of these things than Colley.
What's the likelihood of additional charges being filed at the federal level with anything in connection with that August 4th incident?
This investigation is ongoing, and Special Agent in Charge Wickerham, would you care to speak to that at all?
I mean, it's still ongoing. There's a lot that has been done in the past week. There's still a lot to go through, a lot of evidence to review, a lot of investigation to conduct.
Have you gone into the cell phones?
We did get into the primary cell phone that the shooter was carrying on him when he did the shooting on August 4th. Yes.
Can you share anything about what you found there?
We're still processing and going through that. Obviously, that's a high priority for us, is to get through that cell phone, but it was opened late last week, and we are now reviewing the contents.
You
Holly did not have any part of the planning, at least you haven't got any evidence of that yet. So what did he think that Betts was going to use all of this for? What was their conversation?
I can't speak to exactly what he thought he was going to use the firearm for, but we have not found any indication that he knew he was going to conduct this attack.
Do you anticipate any more criminal charges related to people that Betts knew or was friends with?
Let me take that one, actually. So as Special Agent in Charge Wickerham was saying, this investigation is open and ongoing. Agencies are working together to make sure that every last piece of evidence is thoroughly reviewed. And I think what you can take away safely is that if anyone is found to have any criminal responsibility for any action that is discovered during the course of this investigation, it will be prosecuted.
From the understanding of the severity of this incident, did the individual that we're here in question about apologize for even doing the act that he committed?
I'm not going to speak to any circumstantial evidence beyond that which is complained in the affidavit at this stage of the proceeding.
Are CCW holders ever subject to drug testing?
I cannot speak to the intricacies of CCW law in Ohio. I can say that I feel comfortable saying, although it's not strictly in the affidavit, that Colley's CCW was confiscated at the time of the search.
You talk about the majority of time that he's found guilty of these alleged crimes that he's committed. How much time was he served?
So the two crimes that are mentioned in the criminal complaint, one of them is a penalty of 0 to 5 years in prison, and the other is 0 to 10 years in prison. So conceivably 0 to 15 years in prison, anywhere in that range.
Would this also be considered the tip of the iceberg? If he's done this once, whether he's done it twice, maybe 3 times, so we can look in his past and see.
I definitely cannot speak to that sort of question, how frequently this might have occurred, but I can say again that this is going to be an extremely thorough, and is an extremely thorough investigation of any and all aspects that went into ultimately what happened on August 4th. Any kind of crimes, any federal crimes that are uncovered as a result of that investigation will be prosecuted fully.
Are his charges or penalties increased in severity since the weapon was used in a mass shooting, or will he have gotten the same charges and penalty if it had not been involved, if he had just been caught with drugs?
It's the same charges regardless.
How long do they know each other? Did they grow up together? They just meet in 2014?
Well, it's clear from the affidavit in support of the complaint that they've known each other for several years, quite a few years. It indicates at least back to 2014. I believe longer, but I don't want to get into speculation about precisely how long.
I know they went to school together or anything of that nature.
I don't want to get into additional evidence that are beyond the scope of the affidavit.
Betts, actually, did he falsify any firearms reports based on this investigation, what you found here?
We don't have the ability to say that he falsified forms at this time. Certainly, it is what Colley falsified. It is a crime to possess a firearm or to acquire a firearm when you are an illegal drug user. So that is a crime, and we are comfortable charging that against Colley at this time.
The drug use alleged between the two men, did that have anything, is that significant at all to what happened last weekend? Do we know that Betts had been using drugs at all?
I will just say that the investigation remains ongoing.
Would or could the shooting have been carried out still had these purchases not been made?
I can say that the purchases that are at issue here were some of the equipment that was used in August 4. So this body armor, the accessory for the AR, and the double drum magazine was the equipment that was used on August 4th.
What is that accessory? Could face more serious charges than the one you currently approved?
I'm not going to speak to any additional charges other than those that are stated here.
What is that accessory? What is that?
It's a component of the AR. So it's just, you can just, when you buy an AR style gun, there are different components and people can assemble them themselves. So certain parts you have to acquire using the Form 4473, but then other parts can be acquired separately and put together separately, and that's what happened, or is alleged to have happened in this case. Just the top, the upper receiver.
Was the actual AR hidden from the parents as well, or do they know of that?
I can't speak to that.
And we always ask you to sum up situations like this. What's your thoughts on what this means to the community and how it is what?
Yeah, so yeah, my thoughts are that I want to be clear that this investigation into what happened on August 4th is ongoing. It's going to be thorough. The FBI, Dayton police will do everything possible to get to the bottom of every piece of evidence. If any criminal wrongdoing is discovered in the course of that investigation that is capable of being prosecuted, it will. Today is an example of that. Yeah. One more question.
So it wasn't a crime for him to have purchased these accessories or vests if he hadn't been a legal drug user. That itself was not a crime.
That is not charged as a crime. Thank you.
Biggest mass shooting case in your career then?
Unfortunately, yes. Yes. Thank you.